Alliance for partnering with us for this production, and we thank each person joining us here on this panel today. Tonight's discussion will be led by our very own Ms. Denise Gilmore, the Senior Director for the City of Birmingham's Office of Social Justice and Racial Equity. Gilmore joined the city back in 2018 as Director of Cultural Preservation, overseeing the preservation of landmarks relating to the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument, including the A.G. Gaston's Hotel. In addition to her work here in Alabama, Ms. Gilmore has held positions in Kansas City and the nation's capital leading redevelopment projects. With great honor, I introduce to you my illustrious soror and our esteemed moderator, Denise Gilmore.
Thank you, Ashley, and good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
Okay, so I'm really looking forward to this conversation. And we're going to first start with just a brief introduction. We have on our panel this evening Chris Butcher, who is the superintendent of the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument and Freedom Riders National Monument. And so we welcome you, Chris, to this panel tonight.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
And then Reverend Wilder, who is the leader and pastor of Bethel Baptist Church.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. And then Akeem Lee, a volunteer and passionate historian at 16th Street Baptist Church.
Blessed to be here.
Good. So are you all ready for this conversation?
Absolutely.
Okay, why don't we start first? And I'm just going to ask you to share a little bit about the significance of your site and why people and some of the history of your site. And so, Chris, I'm going to start with you.
All right. So Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument was established January 12th of 2017 by President Barack Obama, almost at the end of his second term. Specifically to preserve and interpret the events, stories, and places associated with the nonviolent struggle for civil rights in Birmingham in 1963. And one of the unique things about that establishment was the Park Service federal ownership is very small because we are charged with collaboratively and in partnership managing and telling these stories. And so we have many partners that we'll get into this evening, but it's really an honor and a unique pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Chris. Reverend Wilder, tell us about the place that we are in.
Well, this is Bethel Baptist Church. This is the new Bethel. The historic Bethel is a block up the street, but Bethel is known because this is where Reverend Shuttlesworth was one of the initiators of the movement here in Birmingham. Bethel also has been named a National Historic Landmark. We are being considered for World Heritage Site. And it is one of the few places in the United States that's been bombed 3 times and has not suffered a loss of life, nor has missed a church service. We're proud of this place because it has been a leader in the community, not only for civil and human rights, but also in religious things too. We've tried to be a good community citizen and make sure that we're not stuck in the past, but we're also relevant for today. So that's Bethel. It's the community church. I like to call it of Collegeville.
Thank you. Akeem, tell us about 16th Street Baptist Church.
Yes. 16th Street Baptist Church was organized in April of 1873, and it was organized as the first colored Baptist church of Birmingham. In our early part of the 20th century, 16th Street literally became the cultural centerpiece of Birmingham's African-American community. We were nicknamed Everybody's Church because anytime there were any African-Americans that needed to hold events and seminars and concerts in Birmingham, 16th Street was the place that was chosen. Our building that we worship in today was erected in 1911. Wallace Rayfield, who was the second formally trained black architect in the United States, actually designed the building, and T.C. Wyndham, who was a member of our church, his construction company built the building. So, as I said, we were Everybody's Church, and then in the 1960s, our church became involved with the Civil Rights Movement, becoming the primary headquarters for the 1963 spring demonstrations. As many people know, in September of 1963, our church suffered a bombing which killed 4 little girls. And as a result of the spring demonstrations and the bombing, it led to the 1964 Civil Rights Act being passed, and that led to the 1965 Voting Rights Act being passed. Our church has continued to be a very important part of Birmingham's Black community. We too have been nominated as a World Heritage Site, and we are a National Historic Landmark. And the bombing did not stop us. We got through the tragedy, and we are in triumph.
Absolutely, thank you. So Chris told us about the establishment of the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument, which both of your sites are included. But Chris, talk about a little bit about some of the other sites that are in the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument. Give us that maybe a more holistic look at the Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument.
Absolutely. So obviously 16th Street Baptist Church, Bethel Baptist Church, also St. Paul United Methodist Church, Kelly Ingram Park, the Masonic Temple Building, the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute, and then the A.G. Gaston Motel are the buildings, the organizations, the places that were set apart and established as the National Monument. But something that we're all aware of and it needs to be said is the stories were being told and the places were being preserved long before this is established as a National Monument. And so our charge is to really try to be a value add and come alongside the amazing work and the amazing people that have been telling these stories and fighting for social justice and racial equity for so long, and to try to bring more eyes on Birmingham and more eyes on these stories so that we can impact future generations. I guess the unfortunate part is the lessons are just as relevant today as they were in the 60s, and so we have to create the next generation of change warriors and change agents, especially when we talk about young people.
Absolutely. Reverend Wilder, what are some activities or events that currently Bethel, either Historic Church or Bethel Baptist Church, is engaged in?
Okay. Well, one of the things that we like to do is host the community. And so normally, prior to COVID, we were very involved with a lot of kids in the community in terms of doing we had a tutorial program, reading tutorial, where we partnered with Hudson Elementary School, because we found that a lot of our kids were reading below grade level. And so we formed a partnership with Hudson and with an organization called STARE, so that we had volunteers to come out and help our kids read. Also, on Wednesday nights, we provided food for a lot of the kids in the community where they came out. We served them a full meal. We taught Bible study. We had mentoring programs. We did other things like that. At one point, we had the Boy Scout troop that was here. We had the Girl Scout troop that was here. We're still trying to revitalize that. We also are the meeting place for the environmental justice that's going on in the community. A lot of our areas are polluted because of things that have happened and have been in the news by some people who run factories here. And so we've been the meeting place for that group and have tried to be, a place where we can disseminate information so that people would know what to do. Those are just a few things that we're doing. Of course, again, we have a mentoring program where we work with our young kids in the community and try to help them. We're presently engaged in trying to do a community revitalization. We're working with the Christian Service Mission and Mountain Brook Community Church. They come and help us as well, where we are doing roofs for homes. We completely did the outside of several homes here. We just finished one right by the parsonage I guess it was last October, where we completely redid that house, and now we're looking at starting another house that we're going to completely redo, as well as building some others. So as much as we can do to be a good community citizen, as well as being a spiritual place for people to come, that's what we're trying to do right now.
So you're building really to help to rebuild and stabilize the neighborhood.
Absolutely.
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 Absolutely. So, Akeem, what are some of the activities or events that 16th Street is currently engaged in?
Absolutely. 16th Street, as I mentioned, we are known as Everybody's Church. That's the name that we had beforehand, and that's the name we continue to have. We've had several events at the church that people continue to talk about. The Violins of Hope event really brought various cultures and people of various backgrounds together. I was just at UAB the other day, and someone brought that up, that happened a few years ago, but it's something that really stuck with individuals. We have a program where one of our church members works with former drug users, and they have classes down at the church, and it's a way to be involved in the community. Our church is also working on partnering with some local colleges and high schools to really bring those young people to the church to serve on our tour ministry so that we can educate young people on our church's history and that they can share the story of our church history as well as the civil rights movement in Birmingham as well.
Tell us a little bit more about your tour ministry.
Absolutely. So our tour ministry is primarily, our adult retired volunteers are the primary individuals that serve on the tour ministry, and they have been doing this since the 1990s. These individuals take the time out of their weeks every week to come down and to continue to share the story of our church history. We're trying to, of course, continue to use our adult volunteers, but also to bring in some of our younger Birmingham citizens to be involved in that as well. Our tour ministry is continuing to expand. We just hired a director of tourism recently to handle the operations of our tour ministry. We are working on being a part of the Alabama All-in-One ticket, so that that'll be another method so that people can purchase that one ticket, and 16th Street will be as part of one of the sites that they go and visit. So, yes.
Absolutely. And Chris, you've got some exciting programs as part of the National Park Service, so share those programs with our audience.
I'd be happy to. Thank you. We've been really fortunate to be awarded a grant from the National Park Foundation to target and build out an education program. So specifically reaching out to Title I schools in Birmingham and the larger community to provide an opportunity to help all of us kind of, again, work together to create a seamless visit and experience and engage the young people in these stories. And so we've so far, it's a fairly new program. We just unveiled it this month. We have almost 150 students and 35 teachers and chaperones, and our goal is to reach out to 1,500 students this year. And so we're really excited.
So you're letting us know that there's space available?
There is space available, so yeah, please go to nps.gov/BICR and email us or call us and reach out. We would love to host your students in any way that we can.
Absolutely. So what are some little known facts that you would like to share? And Akeem, we're going to start with you this time.
Well, as I mentioned, Wallace Rayfield designed our church building. A lot of people don't know, but the current building that we're in, that was actually Wallace Rayfield's second design that he had for our church. He submitted a design to us first, and the church actually rejected the first design. So had we accepted the first design, we wouldn't be in the building we're in today. So that's one fact a lot of people really, truly don't know. A lot of people also don't know that 16th Street was very involved in Birmingham's education system early in its history. So A.H. Parker, who was the principal of then Industrial High School, but later called A.H. Parker High School, he was the superintendent of our church Sunday school. The Birmingham Eastonian Bible College actually started in our church basement. Our pastor at the time, Dr. William Pettiford, was one of the founders of that college. So a lot of people don't know how involved 16th Street was in the education of our black citizens in Birmingham early on.
Absolutely, especially when we know the history, and at that time education was
very limited.
Very limited, but also recognized that it was really the key to being able to uplift. Reverend Wilder, what are some little known facts about Bethel?
Well, one thing I'd like to broaden a little bit, Bethel is located in a community called Collegeville, as you know, and Collegeville was so named because there was actually a college out here. It was not a college as we know colleges now, but at one point in the state of Alabama, black schools for black people did not go past the 8th grade. Well, W.L. Lauderdale knew that in order for us to progress as a race, that there needed to be some extended training, and so he opened up what he called Lauderdale College, which was located here in this community, that gave more training to black people, black and brown people, but primarily black people at that time, so that they could matriculate through the world, in the world. The other little known fact is that a lot of the demonstrations that started here in the 1950s and 60s actually started out here. There's a sign where the demonstrators started from Bethel, and then we marched all the way downtown, and then at the demonstrations. A little bit later on, 16th Street, because the program grew, and it really didn't make a lot of sense to march from here all the way downtown and then to march out when 16th Street was right across the street. So they opened up their doors to the movement, and they could be trained at 16th Street and then walk out and go across the street. But I think one of the little-known facts is that Bethel existed for the most part, because a lot of people don't know. I mean, they know about Dr. King and what happened in '63, but they don't know that 7 years prior to that, Bethel and Reverend Shuttlesworth were working, and they don't know that Reverend Shuttlesworth was the one that invited Dr. King down. And it took 2 years to persuade him to come because of the reputation of Birmingham. Birmingham was, at that point, known as one of the most racist cities in the world, next to Johannesburg, South Africa, where apartheid was. So I think those things are important to know about Bethel, that even though we are small, even though we're community-based, we did have a tremendous impact on the things that happened here in Birmingham. Reverend Shuttlesworth, as I said, did invite Dr. King, and he sort of took a back seat, and Dr. King sort of led things, but it was his push. It was his deciding in 1956, that he was going to ride the buses in an integrated fashion that started the first bomb of the church on Christmas night. And so I think those things are important to remember about that.
And there's a major milestone coming up
yes,
soon.
Indeed. Thank you I had that down on my list. Thank you for introducing that. We are also working with the church that Reverend Shuttlesworth started in Cincinnati called Greater New Light to celebrate his 100th birthday, which will be on March 18th, 2022. We'll start with a planting of a tree in the Memorial Garden, and then we'll host a simulcast here with the people in Cincinnati, so that we'll have people here and there celebrating the contributions of Reverend Shuttlesworth on what would have been his 100th birthday.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for introducing that to me.
Thank you.
That was a nice layup.
Chris.
So yeah, one thing I really
about the National Monument.
Yeah, well, one thing I think is really incredible, speaking of Reverend Shuttlesworth, is his role in the other national park that I'm the superintendent of, the Freedom Riders National Monument, and I mean his critical role in when they came into Alabama and helping and aiding those folks when they were bombed and assaulted and beaten up. It's just incredible, the legacy and the work that he did for decades, and still to this day, honoring that. Another thing is, in federal terms, we're 5 years old. We're still a baby national park, but we kind of started a trend where when I think of national park, before I came to Birmingham, I thought of Yellowstones or Yosemites, or even urban parks like Independence Hall, where there's just this big green federal ownership space. But there was a new intent when Birmingham was established, and that was to keep the federal ownership piece very small and really engage the community, the partners, and the stakeholders. And I think that's a really incredible and noble charge, again, because the stories were being told, the places were being protected. We just hopefully can bring more resources and eyes to it. And so I really think it's a unique opportunity and challenge to be here, because we're kind of setting a new trail for national park development and rollout, because it's not really been done before.
And Chris, isn't it also a little unique, because normally a national park might be one site?
Exactly.
And isn't our national monument a little unique in the way that it's structured?
It is, yeah. We're several sites that make one park, absolutely. And again, we all understand that so many were left out. I mean, if we were really telling the Birmingham civil rights story, we just draw a giant circle around, a multi-county, a multi-county area, and so it's really just an incredible story to tell in a really unique way that the Park Service is trying to tell that story.
Absolutely. So, how would you invite people to either volunteer or to support the work that you're doing at your site? Reverend Wilder?
Well, one of the things that we try to do in terms of inviting people is just to help them understand first the historicity of the community. Not only did you have Bethel, not only did you have Lauderdale College, but at one point, this community, and if you've come in this community more than twice, you've gotten stopped by a train somewhere. But this community was historic also in that it was one of the few places in the United States where all of the major railroads had a line to go through it. And so that's why it's surrounded by railroad tracks. That was important because a lot of black people could find good jobs where they did not have to ride the bus downtown and be humiliated. They could live here, walk to work, go all across the country, come back, bring the money, bring the ideas, and help the community. And so I encourage young people to come and think about that. Think about where the history is. Think about how, what the church stood for and what it continues to stand for. And also I encourage people, just because of the need that we have, that there are lots of things that can be done here to help uplift the community, that help uplift the church, and also help the people that participate. We don't ask them to do something without giving them anything in return. And just the experience of being where history was made, I think, is extremely important. As an example, the wall around the Memory Garden was done by a group of students who were in their training for brick masonry. So we asked their professor to bring them out and let them work on the memorial garden. Well, we did two things. One, we saved ourselves a little money, but two, we got some buy-in from some students that never would have known about the church. So we told them the history of the church, then we let them work. So from this point on, if they're 70 years old, they can come back by Bethel and say, when I was 16, I laid those bricks. That's important to us. There has to be a buy-in, as I said, that there has to be something that people do that benefits them as well as benefits us. So those are the main selling points.
So how can they connect with you if they wanted to volunteer or
Well, they can call me
or
directly here
you?
at the church. That number is 205-322-5360. I'm on extension 103. As I said, we use a lot of volunteers from the Christian Service Mission, so they can talk to the Christian Service Mission, and we partner with them in doing a lot of work. So either way, or they can write me a letter, 3200 28th Avenue North, 35207. People don't write letters, so I have to remember what the zip code is.
It's those apps and that technology and stuff. So.
I'm still stuck in a
That's all right.
couple
That's
years
okay.
before.
We're going to help you.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Akeem, how can people support 16th Street or volunteer? What can people do to support the work that you're doing?
Yes, so we have our church website, 16th Street. Baptist.org. You can sign up to volunteer on there and also to give. But another way of getting involved is very simple. Our church is open for tours Tuesday through Saturday. Tuesday through Friday, we're open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Saturdays, we're open from 10 to 1. It's as simple as you going in and greeting a tour guide and saying, I want to get involved. I want to be a part of this. I want to share the story of 16th Street and how important it is in Birmingham's history. All you have to do is do that. We are very accepting of all volunteers. You don't have to be a member. All races, all creeds, all colors. We want everybody to participate. We are always currently seeking volunteers, so it's very simple. Or you can call the church office. And
I think it really is worth stating that both Bethel and 16th Street are active congregations.
Right.
So it's not just a historic site or a museum that you can come and look at. You have active congregations.
Yes.
Absolutely. And if I may, Hakeem, if I may budge on some time, one of the things that we have done too, we have people that actually come and worship with us, as 16th Street does as well. And there'll be people from all across the world who will come here, and they'll want to tour, and they'll also want to worship with us. And so that's good for them in that they see who we are and that we are active, but it's also good for our people to see people from different races, different religions, different parts of the world to come and worship with us. I think that kind of cultural exchange is important to promote understanding, and my opinion is that we have far too less understanding and far too much judgment, and that's why we can't even talk to each other about anything, because we don't try to understand. So I think this is one of the things, again, as 16th Street does, we invite people to come and be a part of us, not just what happened back then, but what we're doing now in terms of worship, in terms of service, and sometimes in terms of ideas.
So I think you raised a good point, because while the National Monument and these sites are very active and important to the Birmingham community, it's global. We have visitors from all over the world come. And so just share some of the places where you have welcomed visitors from for our audience.
Since I took part of your time, I'm going to let you go first.
I mean, they come from everywhere: Africa, England, other parts of America, China. Visitors come all the time. I mean, we welcome a range of several hundred visitors to several thousand, depending on the season, and they come from everywhere. We get schools, universities. My favorite part of volunteering at 16th Street is working with the college student population. That's my passion, in the elementary schools and high schools. So we get visitors from everywhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We as well, one story sticks out, actually two. One is a group from Maxwell Air Force Base. They have pilots come in from all across the world, literally, and they will come here. And this last time they came, and I just asked a question: how many of you have ever been to Alabama? And of course, none of them had. And then I said, what was your impression of Alabama before you got here? And it's shameful that they still remember the 1960s. They think of pickup trucks and people riding around with Confederate flags and on their truck with coon dogs in the back. And one guy said no shoes. People walk around with no shoes. And it's really sad, because Alabama has a lot to offer, and that stigma, I think, has cost us a lot. And if I may digress just a little bit more, when I worked corporately, one of the things I did was a corporate recruiter. And I remember this guy from Ohio. We were trying to recruit him as a safety manager for this industrial engineering construction company. And, I had him on the hook, and at the last moment when I made him the job offer, he decided not to come. And I asked him why. And he said, and this was probably right at 2000, year 2000. He says, I'm in an interracial marriage, and I've heard of the way Alabama is, and I don't want to subject my family to that. Now, this is 2000. And this is a major, this corporation I was working for was an international, but yet still people have that idea of that's the way Alabama is. So it's good for us to invite people in so that they can see, yes, we're multiracial, yes, we do get along, no, there's nobody riding around with a shotgun trying to shoot at you. And I think us being open to the world helps provide that understanding and helps Alabama in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. So, Chris, isn't that one of the benefits of the National Monument, to help tell these stories and to help people around the world understand what happened in Birmingham, but even more so, what's happening right now?
Absolutely. And that, and as well as the potential, World Heritage nomination, certainly bringing eyes to Birmingham. We all know that there are folks who they want to get every National Park Service passport stamp or every Junior Ranger badge and check off all the boxes. And so they may not come to Birmingham or Alabama because they necessarily even care about the story, but they want to check that box or have that, complete that memory. And once they come to Birmingham and they can see exactly what Reverend Wilder is talking about, it's an amazing city. It's an amazing place that's not scarred by, or not defined by the scars of the past. One of the challenges I think we all struggle with trying to tell this story is too often we only focus on the trauma and the pain and don't focus on the success and the victory of the time. And there were, and A.G. Gaston specifically in telling that story of a multimillionaire in Birmingham in the 60s and the legacy that is still today in Birmingham. The A.G. Gaston construction company, the legacy firm, is doing the work on the restoration of the motel. And so really trying to bring people in for whatever reason we can. That's all it takes, because Birmingham is such an amazing place with such amazing people that reflect exactly what Reverend Wilder is saying. And so if we can get them here, hopefully they'll see exactly what is here and how special it is.
So in addition to the activism, there's so many stories of excellence and achievement and architecture as well that is really a standout in the district. So now that we've had this time to really talk about what our sites are doing, I want you to think about, this is 2022, And as Chris said, the monument was established in 2017, which means that this past January, we celebrated the 5th anniversary of the National Monument. And so think about 5 years from now. It's 2027. What is your hope for your site 5 years from now?
I would say, one, I see 16th Street being at least one of the top 5 tourism places in the state of Alabama. We are actively working to shift the narrative from individuals coming to the church to just learn about the bombing. While that is very important and that is essential to our church history, there's so much more. Going off of you, Chris, our church really genuinely was a part of black success in Birmingham. Dr. Pettiford founded the Alabama Penny Savings Bank, which was the first black banking institution in Alabama. Being able to tell stories like that is very important to us. We are currently working on opening a museum that will discuss the stories of Pettiford, Wallace Rayfield, and T.C. Wyndham to show people that African Americans in Birmingham, Alabama were able to find ways to succeed despite being under segregation. And I don't think a lot of people understand that and know that. You think of just the trauma, you think of the traumatic past, but you don't understand that these black people found the ways that they needed to do to make sure they built a wonderful and thriving community in Birmingham. Mm-hmm. So we are actively trying to change that narrative of why people come to Birmingham and why they come and visit 16th Street Baptist Church. Excellent. Reverend Wilder?
Well, we have several things. I made a list here, but I'll run through them very quickly.
That's okay. Take your time.
We're presently doing something called Camp Bethel, which is a reading and math camp that usually lasts about a month, in which we bring kids in and we teach them, help them with their reading and math skills, do a pre-test and a post-test. One of the goals I have in the next 5 years is to try to expand that to be even longer than it is, because even though we spent about a month trying to help, it takes longer. It really does. And particularly in the COVID environment that we're in now, when people are already behind, a month or 2 months may not be long enough. So I hope to expand that. Also, one of the things I hope to do in our redevelopment, I really want to do something called Shuttlesworth Park. I really do. And I wanted to start right on Shuttlesworth Avenue and go at least back to 33rd, which is where the church is. And it'll be just a little sub-area of the Collegeville community where we have built it up, and it's a place where people can come and they can park a bus at the park, Macklin Park, and then just walk around, visit the historic church, visit the new church, visit the parsonage where you mentioned the Freedom Riders came, and visit some other places, which would be good. The other thing I want us to be, along with 16th Street, celebrating our World Heritage designation. I'd like to build some more homes. I'd like to reinvigorate our scouting program. One of the things that I'm working on, I'm working on my doctorate, and my thesis and project is around poverty elimination. And so in the next 5 years, what I hope to do is provide some kind of a leadership training course so that people that come to us for benevolence can not only get the help they need right then, but we'll have somebody over a year, 2-year period walk with them to help them know how to navigate through what they're going through to get out of poverty and to stay out of poverty. Because just giving benevolence is not enough. We have to go beyond benevolence. And then the last thing I'd like to do is to try to get, along with the poverty elimination, try to get some skills training, because I think people stay in poverty because they don't have the necessary soft and hard skills to get out. I think the church has to provide that. I don't think we can continue to look to the government to do it or look to the educational system. As a church, we have a unique opportunity to walk with people day to day. You can't do that from the government because they're way over there. You can't do that from schools because they meet from this point to this point. Churches, we should be there 24/7, 365. So we have a unique opportunity to walk with people, to pray with people, to do other things with people that the government and education can't do. And so my goal is, out of this project that I'm doing, to provide some ongoing training, a discipleship group, if you may call it, such that for the next 2, 3, however long it takes, we walk people out of poverty and help them stay out of poverty.
Wow, and you're closest to the people, so you
Absolutely.
Your
Absolutely.
proximity actually makes it better and easier for you to be able
Agreed.
to do that.
It
So,
makes it harder,
great.
but it can be done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Chris, what's your hope for the National Monument 5 years from now?
First and foremost, I hope we can help you all do those amazing things that you just talked about doing in any small way. Practically, obviously, the complete our interior restoration of the 54 side of the A.G. Gaston Motel to fully scale up and operationalize so that when folks come to the National Monument, they can see what you expect to see, your flat hat rangers that are providing tours and access. Also, you know, we're in such a unique position and so lucky to have significant engagement and investment from the city, from all the other partners and stakeholders, that there's an opportunity for us to really be at the cutting edge of utilizing technology and being creative in how visitors experience the park, how visitors learn about it and interact with these stories. And so I'm hoping that can continue in 5 years, that not only is it a world-class experience, but it's a cutting-edge, forward-thinking experience to really meet people kind of how they learn best.
Excellent. So let's just take a minute if you want to and just give kind of a closing statement, and then if we do have a few questions, we'll take them. But just give a kind of a closing statement. Akeem?
I am just honored to have the opportunity to just talk about the work that is being done in the Civil Rights Monument. People are coming here. They're coming here for a reason. They're coming here for racial reconciliation. They're coming here to learn about the important stories that we are able to tell them. And it's just a blessing to be able to have this opportunity to continue to do things like this.
Thank you. Reverend
Okay.
Wilder?
I also am very, very happy to be doing what I'm doing. It means that we get a chance to educate people about some things that perhaps they've not been educated about. There's so much of history that has been left out and misconstrued, and people like Reverend Shuttlesworth or another member that was here, the guy named Reverend Lamar Weaver, who's a white man who got run out of town for shaking Reverend Shuttlesworth's hand. You know, those kinds of stories need to be told. They need to be brought to the forefront. We need to know, I think, the price of how we've gotten to where we are so that we won't so easily throw it away. I think that's very important. And one of the other things I think we really need to do is just learn how to talk to each other. And I think the church, in particular this church, can be instrumental in helping people do that. To just sit down and even if we don't agree, at least we can communicate. And so that's one of the things that I hope that we can do in our lifetime.
Perfect. Thank you. Chris?
It's an absolute privilege to work alongside and labor alongside each and every one of you and all of our partners and stakeholders that aren't here this evening. But yeah, I mean, I think my goal, the National Park Service's goal, again, is to really be a value added and a resource to help continue or to increase the amazing work that has been going on for decades and continues to go on moving forward. And so we're really excited about this opportunity and really excited to work alongside these amazing people.
Thank you. So we had one question. Reverend Wilder, you're going to really like this question. Somebody wants to know if you have a social media presence, and if so, share that. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, what is it, Instagram?
Well, since you called me, I'll start. We do have social media presence, and the people that run it are actually up in the booth now. We do have Facebook, and we have our own YouTube channel, and that's as far as I know.
Okay,
I know we do other things.
That is good.
Yeah, I am underdeveloped when it comes to social media. I really am.
But you have people that
But we do have
you.
people that do it, and I
Okay,
trust
that's
them immensely. And
right.
they do a fantastic job. This is being streamed because the people up in the sound booth know what they're doing and they know how to do it. But yes, we do have those. We do have a website and lots of other things. And somebody else could tell you, but I'm sorry, I don't know.
Thank you. That was excellent. Chris?
We've got a website, like I said, nps.gov/BICR. We have Facebook, we have Instagram and Twitter and YouTube. Most of those are underdeveloped, given our lack of capacity right now, but certainly we try to update those as much as we can. Like I said, I used to be cool and with it on what's cutting edge, but now I'm not nearly as trendy as I think I used to be. And so I'm sure we're not on TikTok or anything like that yet, but I'm sure it's coming.
So no dancing?
Yeah, no dancing.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
nobody wants to see that. So.
Okay. Akeem?
Yes, the church does have Facebook. Just simply type in 16th Street Baptist Church on Facebook. We broadcast all of our services there, all of the various events that are going on at the church / going on in the community that we deem important. We post on the Facebook too. It's something being posted on there every day. Like, it's very active. When I get on Facebook and scroll, I see 16th Street coming across my timeline all day, every day, or newsfeed rather. Okay. So we are very active on Facebook. Just simply type us in in the search bar.
Well, thank you. Well, it has been my privilege to share this time in this space with you, and I want to thank you for sharing the work that you're doing. And it's just important that our work is preserved, that we're able to promote what we're doing, and then also for future generations. And I'm going to say even current generations, because there are a lot of people that may not know, and I hope that this has helped people understand the work that has taken place. So thank you so much, and I'm going to turn it back over now to Ashley to close us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was a great discussion, and it was very informative, especially for me, someone who is currently in this generation. So I want to thank our moderator, Ms. Gilmore, and to the panel. Once again, thanks to our sponsors, and I hope everyone has a great night. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.